My favorite part about this Azur Lane Wave 4 collab has been this copy and pasted Chapayev. It has been largely overshadowed by the new jersey for sure. That's what everyone was most excited about, and no one is talking about this Azur Lane Chapayev. I would start by saying I'm a cruiser player. First and foremost, I enjoy that more than battleships in this game. I'd say a well-played light cruiser is the most powerful ship in the game. Azur Lane Chapayev has some pretty incredible stats that I believe will make her one of the most potent cruisers at tier 7. The community managers yesterday morning talked me down, so I'm not going to say the word overpowered, but wow, this thing is stupid strong. Disclaimer, if you didn't know, I'm a community contributor for Wargaming. That means this ship was provided to me for review, testing purposes, and to make content to bring to you. I did not pay $70 for this ship. I get no kickbacks if you pay $70 for this ship. I don't care one way or the other. In the same breath, community contributors can say bad things about ships. We don't have a gun to our heads. We can give our opinion. If you don't believe me, look at my Palmer and review. That ship is bad. Straight up not good. But I felt like I needed to air that out at the beginning of this video because I will be pretty opinionated about the ship right off the bat. So now that that's out of the way, Azur Lane Chapayev comes with some great buffs over the original free-to-play Tech Tree Tier 7 Soviet light cruiser. Let's look at the differences. It really comes down to the guns and the shells. Azur Lane Chapayev gets 550 more damage per HE shell, but only a 5% fire chance. So these HE shells deal heavy cruiser damage, basically. They hit harder than Wichita, Charles Martel, or Baltimore shells, and those are 203s, pretty big shells, at the cost of having a very bad fire chance. Again, 5%, kind of like a Fletcher gun. To make things a little more spicy though, Azur Lane Chapayev gets quarter pin as if she were a German cruiser. That means her shells penetrate 37 millimeters of armor rather than the typical 25 millimeters of armor that most 152 millimeter guns are going to penetrate. So with this Azur Lane Chapayev, you're going to shatter much less shells. The only other trade-off is you lose some AP damage, 300 per AP shell. So the AP is not going to be as strong as the original Chapayev, but every other statistic should be identical between the two ships. These buffs to the Azur Lane Chapayev's HE bring it to the top of the pack for Tier 7 HE DPM, beating out the Cleveland, the Weimar, the Suzuya in raw damage potential. Yes, some of those ships are going to set more fires, but they're also going to shatter a lot more shells because of your improved pin. So we'll keep talking about this, but I want to show you my build before we get too far. Improve that turret traverse, acceleration, turning speed, and reload. Yes, there is a specific Azur Lane Chapayev commander that you could put on here. Her base trait incapacitates enemy ship modules at a higher rate, and she has a special skill in slot 4 that will boost HE damage more at the cost of gutting your fire chance. When I put it on this ship, my fire chance dropped to 2.5%. All in all, I would grade this commander in the D tier, really. I don't think it's a solid inspiration or a skill, and I would recommend you put old Nikolai Kuznetsov on this ship. With Nikki, we bring that fire chance back up to 10%. Still not great, but you're going to set plenty of fires with that. Refill station and Membelli for the reload, and then Makawa to help the concealment just a little bit because the ship struggles in that department. So we get great HE penetration, crazy alpha, DPM, and we still have an ability to set some fires, and this build can really rack up the damage. Let's cover the other stats of this ship real quick for those who are curious to see how she stacks up against other Tier 7 cruisers. The HP pool is kinda low. The heals at 7,200 apiece are slightly above average, but overall, I'm gonna say the survivability of Chapayev is not amazing. She's mostly wrapped in 26 millimeters of armor. The citadel is long, massive, and above the waterline. The belt, it's 100 millimeters. You can use it to tank some shots if you're lucky where a battleship is aiming. But overall, the highlight of this ship is a 30 millimeter deck. It'll shatter most of the HE spam, and it can tank 16-inch battleship salvos at longer ranges. Pretty decent. And she sits low on the waterline, which I feel gives her a smaller target profile. Make no mistake though, one wrong move in this ship and you'll get yeeted. We talked about all the gun characteristics before, so we'll skip that. The torps are ultra short range, 4-kilometer desperation torps. You're not gonna ever really use them. AA DPS is below average. Top speed is above average, 33.5 knots. The turning circle is an absolute joke. It's kind of like an Iowa. And the rudder shift really is just average. I wouldn't personally spec for agility. Finally, the concealment is 14.3 base, and that's about as bad as it gets. So I do like Makawa on here so battleships don't outspot you by too much. Finally, you have an average sonar and that awesome 11.7 kilometer Soviet radar that lasts for 20 seconds. Glass cannon? Yeah, pretty much. But if you play her correctly, you can stay alive and be a major pain in the red team's side. In terms of HE gun performance and damage, I see this being one of the top tier 7 cruisers now. The shell velocity on Soviet guns is very fast with flat firing arcs. You can't lob islands very well, but it's going to help you when aiming at longer ranges, especially against smaller, faster moving targets. The gun firing angles are pretty decent, and actually the rearward firing angles are amazing. So usually setting up with your bow out is the best way to stay alive. And speaking of staying alive, it's all about the propulsion module. This is really my favorite way to keep in the fight while playing Soviet light cruisers, except Ochakov, which is basically Stalin's Ferrari. But the other light cruisers, the acceleration juking is probably the best way to dodge incoming enemy fire. Just wait for someone to shoot and slam it in full forward. For overall utility, I think this is a solid cruiser. It has this insane damage output to make battleships run scared, has a decent fire chance with the Kuznetsov build, the HE shells absolutely murder enemy cruisers, she has a decent top speed to get across the map, sonar, and a great radar. The AA is bad, the Citadel's huge, maneuverability in concealment is awful, but make the good parts of this ship work for you, and man, this thing works. I will say, you're mostly relegated to long-range HE spamming, especially at the beginning of matches where you just don't know where you might be getting shot from. But towards the end of matches, you can move around and be a little more aggressive. Overall though, it's not a brawling ship. I heard someone say one time, it having 4km torps was Wargaming's way of saying you need to be up fighting within 4 kilometers, and well, that just couldn't be any farther from the truth. The armor won't hold up in a brawl, the turret traverse is slow, and so is the rate of turn. So if you want to brawl, go play mines. Overall, right now, I'm giving this thing 4 out of 5 stars. It absolutely claps cheeks. Just remember though that it is an HE spammer, so you're going to be spamming 75% of games. It's not the most glamorous playstyle, really, but the ship has an absurd ability to deal damage right now, especially to battleships. According to CMs, it's performing average enough with other strong cruisers at the tier like Ochakov and Suzuya, so hopefully there would never be a need for a nerf in the future. But remember, Wargaming reserves the right to do just that, so be careful about buying ships that look too good to be true. Weimar are royal. And this isn't a fair comparison to Weimar, I don't feel like, because remember, Weimar, with its insane DPM, was put at tier 6 with quarter pin. So, I'm not saying this ship compares to Weimar or anything like that, but it is freaking strong. It is just really, really strong. Well, thank you guys for hanging around. I hope this video was helpful, maybe a little illuminating. If it was, please hit the like button and share this with a friend. Be sure to subscribe to not miss any future videos, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.